Hello everyone, welcome and thank you for joining me. This is Lee with Lee's Trees, and today I'm working on my Procumbens Nana Cascade Juniper here. This is the front of the tree, and we'll give you a quick spin of it to the right side, to the back, to the left side, and back to the front. And I have somewhat referred to this tree as my lounge chair because when you looked at it from this side, it somewhat looked like a lounge chair with the back of the chair, the seat, and then, where your legs would go. But I haven't given it a prune in quite a few months. I did not give it a fall prune or winter prune. So here coming into spring, it's time to take care of it. And also, it's been 2 years since it's had a repot, and it's time to be repotted. And also, the bottom half of this, or a third, is just straight gravel, just plain driveway type rock that I washed really good and then put in there just to help fill up the volume of the Cascade pot. But we'll be changing all that out. So we'll get started with that here very shortly. And let me just get set up for some dirty work. Alright, I've adjusted the camera angle to try to bring it in as close as possible. I've zoomed in a tiny bit. And because this is a Procumbens Juniper, or Procumbens Nana, and they're so spiky, especially first thing in the spring, we're going to put some gloves on to work on this one. And I can see right in here my tie-down wires from where I have this tied in. So I'm just going to pull those up a little and see if I can untie them or untwist it. Let's see. Yeah, I should. I'll go ahead and just cut that last little bit off here in a moment. There it is. Okay, there's my fourth. All right, so I have my tie-down wires undone. So let's go ahead and pull this out. Actually, I might need to about loosening it from the sides here a tiny bit. There it comes slowly. Okay. Wow. Now this is a good quality bonsai soil. I'm not 100% sure of what the mixture is. I do believe it is a Akadama pumice and lava mix. I got this tree as part of a beginner's bonsai class from the club a couple of years ago, just over 2 years ago. A little bit of moss will pull off of it there. And this has been in the club show a couple of times. Just because it was one of my better trees and I actually have a stand that would fit it. So of course with doing a repotting, we know we're definitely going to be trimming some roots. So let's just go ahead and get all of that out of the way. But getting back, I might end up sifting this soil a little and trying to get this larger rock out of it. And I may end up trying to reuse it since it is not for this bonsai, but maybe for something else in the future. Because it is supposed to be some good quality material. And now, let's get to working on the roots here. You can see there's still a little bit of bark in there from the original nurseries mix. In the beginning bonsai class, again because it's held in a classroom type situation, we didn't do a major repot on these. I just did a basic repot on them. Didn't get the roots super clean. There's like a big tough wad up in there on that side. There we go, that's coming loose. Maybe just in case. And now that I've got a great vast majority of that cleaned out of there, let's go ahead and get rid of this. Moss out of there like I was saying. Clean that up. Okay, so we've got a big root here that's going to have to go. We have this other little one up here that's coming up that we're going to get rid of. A few others on the surface there. There's like a little dead stub of a root. And when I look on the back side, it looks like, yeah, see, I can get the root hook all the way up under there. So that's going to come off. Oops, I'm tearing into them. And let's see if this is going to help or just tear more. Again, I think the different soil mixture has something to do with some of the other issues I was having, because this tree was near some of the others that had the black slime mold issues, but this one did not have any. And I'm wondering if it's because of the different soil that it was in, without any pine bark or anything. And that's why in some of the other videos I've been changing out the trees and repotting them, mostly to change and swap out the old soil and get them into a good quality Akadama pumice and lava mixture. Okay, so I've got a big nub of a root going up there. So we will take that off. From there, everything else seems to be coming out somewhat radially. There's a few larger pieces. We could might be able to take just one other piece off here. Let's see if this will, yeah. Okay. So it would appear that most of the roots on this tree are coming from the front part of it. Looks like there might be one or two in the back, but so there's a big root over here that just goes all sorts of crazy directions. So we're going to take that off. And then there's another one here that's all kinked up and going crazy. We'll take it off there. Of course, in a Cascade pot, you don't really worry about them going too radially, because they are going to go straight down. And it doesn't hurt to try to fix some of those. I said that one that I just cut off a moment ago, I can see where it's actually coming from the bend now. So there we go. That one. Okay, I think that's about what we're going to call that on the roots. Actually, there's one more in the back here that goes straight down almost. Okay. So we'll call that good on the roots there. All right, let's reset. Give the roots a little spritz there to keep them moist for a few moments while we reset up. And I think I'll still be able to use these wires. Let me make sure my drainage screen is going to stay in there. Okay. Oh, it's all good. Careful. Use the Akadama pumice and lava mix to refill. At least a couple more. That might be a little too much. Okay. Now we'll go back to our medium scoop. Okay, now let's see how we're doing. Let me take a moment. Okay, I want to choose, that is my front. I like having my Cascade pot on the diagonal rather than on the front. I just think it looks nicer. Okay, so if we put the tree in right there, that brings up the nabari a little bit. That's good, that's what I wanted. I might could take a tiny handful out here. Maybe bring it down just a tiny bit. No, actually I want to bring it back up. That's right, I do want to bring it up. Oop. Yeah. Now, do I want to change the angle any is the question. And I was actually advised by a bonsai professional that I should almost get rid of this whole entire piece, probably just turn it into a gin. And if I were to do that, and I could adjust this some, I'd have to adjust my tail a little, put some wire on it, but I plan to do that here shortly. And then I can actually get an apex and bring some of these other branches down and make it look a little more traditional. Because I guess having that top piece up there didn't look right to some of the professionals. And as it grows out longer, it's harder to see my lounge chair that I was originally liking about it. So if I adjust my angle a little, that actually is going to start to bring this piece up here a little bit higher, a little better. So this will probably, one of those will become my apex. I'll get rid of the other one and bring that down with some wire. So now we just have to get it tied in. So let me see how is going to be the easiest choice. There's a go to those two, bring that one out of my way for a moment. So before I tighten that down too much, let me change my angle, get down and look at it a little bit more. I might want to turn the tree slightly. Okay. So I'm going to go with that for now. Well, once I get it tightened down, then I'm going to have to go with it permanently. Or not permanently, but at least until the next time. So I've got my wires in the way there. Where is... Let me get this piece of wire out of here. Alright, before I tighten it down too much, on my opposite wires, I think I might want to, I Actually, I want to come on the opposite side of the tree, on this same side. I think once I get this other wire tied down here and tightened up, okay, that snugged it down good. I do want to, I wasn't looking, this branch is almost hitting the pot, so that's not what I want. I want to pick that up, so let me loosen that and loosen that. Get my chopstick in here. Pry the tree over a little and lift it up that way. There, that's the angle I was wanting. So now that I have that, let me tighten this second wire down, and I think it's going to hold it where I want it. Yeah, that picked that up, and it's hard to see, and since I'm going to be getting rid of it anyway, I've got this one branch on an inside curve here, and it never looked good, of course, being on the inside curve, but at the time it would have left too much of a hole. But now that I'm picking that up that way more, I know it's hard to see now that I got that branch out, there's no, the pot and all fills in the space of where that branch was. So, okay, so I am going to try to just use my chopstick and push the roots down into the soil there some before we finish filling it up. And we will take and push our tie wires down in there. Okay. Now, put a little bit more soil in here just to get the roots covered. I don't know, I might have to end up dumping that back off and retying it in after I get done wiring it here in a few minutes. So I might want to wait a moment or two. So I think most of this is going to end up going away, and we'll turn it into gin. I don't know how long of a gin piece I should leave. Probably just enough to stick past the edge of the pot. Not sure. I could probably actually have tipped that up a little bit more. Probably would have looked a little more interesting. There are my my tie-in wires. That's one of the nice things about having aluminum wire, is it can rebend it multiple times before it breaks on you. See, now that is starting to look a lot more interesting. The way the trunk's coming up and then coming around. And so now let's try tightening it down one more time and see what happens. Tighten this one just a tiny bit because I don't want to pull it back the opposite direction. Oops. I got my elbow in the way of the camera there. Let me change hands. Okay, now that get down here and look at it. Okay. So I wish I had it sitting up a little higher so I could see more of the trunk. I'm going to end up having to bury, but maybe in the next root planting we can bring it up a tiny bit more. But that just feels so much better in there, and it looks better. It's sitting up taller. Try to angle it so you can see it a little better there for a moment. And here, let me and there's a root there. I want to make sure I try to get that poked down in. Maybe just the tiniest little bit more soil on top. There we go. Now the way it's sitting, I actually think if I come back to here and have my gin just come just past the edge of the pot would look good. So let me cut this off here. That's, those are my root cutters. Not that matters up here, but let me take that little piece off. But then to give it more of a natural look, yeah. It doesn't look like it was cut off. crush it a little bit. Peel the bark off while it's still wet. So there's still a little bit right here at the base. We're just going to try to roughen that up so again it doesn't look like it was cut off, like it peeled back over time. Alright, let's take a look at it here. Alright, so again, if the trunk was sitting up a little bit taller, you could see that piece a little better coming up. Again, maybe in a couple years when we repot it and bring the roots down a little bit lower, we'll get us a little bit more of a trunk. And that brings up, this looks, you know, this branch came over and died off. And now we just need to do something with the tail here. I don't know if we need those too much more. So now, a little bit of our carnage cam at the moment. So I've got two branches here that I was using to, and since they were so small, to make a separate little pad. And again, I had that one that was coming in the center there. But I think for now, as I bring this down and try and bring this whole piece, which of these is going to be easier to bring up to become my apex or look, and I think it's going to be the one that's in closer. So I'm going to take this one off. So first, we need a good piece of wire to bend our tail. Yeah, let me see if I hook it. So wait, I want to bend it this way. So, oops. Good, we're still recording. So I'm going to want to wire it like that so that I bend it this way, which means I need to, let's see if I can make a little hook here. I was trying to make a smaller hook than that. There we go. It would be better to go that way. This is not going to be easy. trying to put like a preliminary bend in the wire so that when I come around here, it's easier to try to get it started. And again, this is a little more difficult after just repotting. There we go. Can I get... And I can actually see where I had this tree wired before, and I'm actually going the opposite direction that I had it wired before because I can see some of the old wire scars. Now that I'm down this far, I'm getting into my thicker tail portion. I'm going to be a little more careful. If anything, I might want to go ahead and start. So I'm going to leave, let's see, well those will end up being on the inside, so we will take those few pieces off there. And as I bend that around, there's an opening there. I can bring it up in, not be pinching any branches. Okay. See if we can get one more twist. It's not really what I was wanting, but I can adjust that. Okay, now especially right there. Okay, see, by putting the wire and putting a good twist on it, is I've got that branch to lay down. Now I just need to put a small piece of wire to bring this up to become my new apex, and push that one down a little bit, and then just clean this off, and we're pretty much set for the spring for this tree. So let me find a smaller piece of wire. That was a little too big. Let's see, maybe, yeah, it's tiny. Of course, I want to go right next to my other wire, and I just put on. Oh, I probably could have left myself a little bit more up at the top on this one. This should be enough. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and just cut that little piece of wire out, because I think I've got just enough to push that down and to push that up. And actually maybe my wire's going the opposite direction, but that's okay. I was going to try to give that pad a little bit of a twist this way, but the wire's on it that way, so that wouldn't work. But here, let me turn it towards you for a moment. Again, I know it's kind of hard to, you're not getting a look at it from the regular view. Of course, you always want to I'm going to sit down a moment so that I can look straight at it, because that's how you view Cascade trees, is from this direction. So unfortunately now I've got my apex, I've got a back branch there. I might need to bring this part back up in a little bit more to hide that gap. And then let me bring the tail back just a tiny bit. So now let me go through the apex. I'm actually not going to worry with the apex at the moment. So this one has got a few little pieces going straight up we can take off. And we'll take a moment, look if there's anything going straight down, and I will take it back. Let's see, where would be a good spot to come back to? So we'll come back all the way into here. And we'll get a new leader coming there. All right, so some of these are going to be interfering with some of that down there, so we'll just take a few of those out of there, just to separate out our pads. That one, actually, I'll clip that one there, and then we'll start getting this pad to grow back towards me. Oh, there's a little bit of crotch growth in there. We'll clean out. I should probably look. See how much of this has got a whole lot of that. There we go, that doesn't look too bad. Alright, so that's took care of. So I'll bring this back another piece or two, just so that my branches here are starting more closer to my outward bend of the tree there. And is that also going to hide? No, that's all right. It looks fine. At least it looks okay to me. Okay, so now, so we've got a piece going straight up here. And one there. Couple of straight down pieces we can take off. Okay. So now for this thick bushy tail. Oh, there's another straight up one. Well, to begin with, I think the tail is going back that way enough that I might want to have it start coming back to me a little bit. And if that's the case, then I would want to bring it back to one of these branches coming back this direction. But we'll decide that in a few moments. So I've got some branches that are all going to be on the inside of the bend here that we're going to remove. I know it's not much of an inside bend. We'll put just a tiny bit more on it. So a little bit of old brown dead stuff, dead needles in there. We'll get rid of some of that. So that leaves me with a couple of pieces to make a pad. That one's kind of short and stubby. And that leaves me a nice piece there, so we'll leave it for a nice pad on the outside and give it its own space. I think I've just got a little bit of needles under the wire right there. And we'll come back one more. Alright. So now for the tail. I said if I want to bring it coming back to me some, I should probably shorten it down or to a branch again that's angled my way. So I think I'm going to cut it all the way back to there. And then, like I said, this piece here will become my new leader coming back at me this way. Alright, so let's take a look at it here. Sit down. Okay, so apex. Let me. Okay, that's standing more straight up. It was bending off to the side. And my then first branch will give a little more tug on it. Pull it down. And we have this next pad, and I know I've got 2 pads on the same side there, but I can't really help that. And then I've got a pad here and then the pad there at the tail. And we've got our gin off to the side. So maybe just to keep the Cascade, I'll bring that down just a tiny bit more. And now that way you can actually see the different levels. This one could probably, you could see the stuff in the back, so let me take some of this off. Yeah, that was all straight up. Actually, there's probably some stuff on the bottom here we can take off. Yeah. Alright, I'm liking it. Okay, so here I'll reset one more time, give it a final spin. Let you see what we've been working on. And I'll actually zoom the camera a little for you here. You can see our carnage cam. Get a look at the top of the tree. And we'll be right back. We're back with our Procumbens Nana semi-cascade juniper. This is the front for the moment, but after looking at it, even though I like having the pot on the diagonal, that almost looks like a better front right there at the moment. I know it's kind of hard to see them back pads because of this one little pad in the front here, but that'll change over time. Let's call this our front for right now. To the right side, to the back, to the left side, and back to the front. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe.